Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure and honor for me to have this electronic opportunity to greet you on this important occasion. I would first like to express my thanks to my good friend and colleague, Andras Kovac, for inviting me and for organizing this conference. I would also like to express my appreciation to Dr. John Shattuck, the president of the Central European University, for his consistent support of Jewish studies at CEU and for his wholehearted support of this conference. This conference is being held in parallel with the one that was just held at the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington on March 19. Hopefully, the proceedings of both conferences will be published in one volume for the benefit of scholars and laypersons alike. I would like to congratulate and extend my deepest appreciation to the panelists, all well-known scholars, for their decision to share the fruits of their current research. This conference is being held at a significant juncture in the history of Hungary and Hungarian Jewry, on the 70th anniversary of the Holocaust. The destruction of Hungarian Jewry on the eve of Allied victory represents one of the most controversial chapters in the history of the final solution in Europe. The relatively small number of SS men under the leadership of Eichmann and their Hungarian accomplices, enjoying the wholehearted support of the constitutionally appointed Stolyai government, succeeded in making Hungary, with a notable exception of Budapest, Judenrein within less than 4 months. Most of the 565,000 victims of the Holocaust in Hungary were loyal citizens who prided themselves of being Magyars of the Jewish faith. Citizens who, like their predecessors since 1848, had consistently supported the historical cause of the Magyars. Yet, unlike Germany and many other countries in Nazi-dominated Europe, Hungary has so far failed to come to grips with the Holocaust. It has failed to assume responsibility, let alone officially to apologize to its citizens of the Jewish faith for its wartime involvement in this great tragedy. It is this failure to honestly and courageously confront the past that largely contributed to the increasingly virulent assault on the historical memory of the Holocaust. This assault did not originate with the current government in power. It actually began before the war had come to an end, while many thousands of Hungarian Jews still were lingering in concentration camps. Those Jews liberated by the Red Army, including those of Budapest, soon were warned, this time by communists and their allies in pursuit of state power, not to seek any advantages as a consequence of their suffering, or to demand preferential treatment on the ground of racial prerogatives. Once they achieved power in 1948-49, the communists sunk the whole issue of the Holocaust and of the Jewish question into the Orwellian black hole of history. Following the systemic change of 1989, the leaders of the successive democratically elected governments, while aware of the realities of the Holocaust, have, with a few exceptions, consistently pursued policies that, one, aim to deflect attention from the Holocaust by focusing on the positive experiences of the Jews since their emancipation in 1867, and on the rescue activities of the relatively few Christian Hungarians during the German occupation, including Horthy's rescue, halting of the deportations in early July 1944. These policies also strove to bring about the rehabilitation of the Horthy era and the revitalization of the national Christian principles that had guided it. Finally, these policies were designed to absolve Hungary of any guilt for the Holocaust by placing ultimate and exclusive responsibility onto the Germans. The campaign to achieve these objectives has gained momentum during Prime Minister Orban's second administration. Emboldened by the landslide victory of his party in the elections of April 2010, the Prime Minister appears to have provided both the legal constitutional framework and the political directives for the successful pursuit of the above objectives, ostensibly all parts of a grand design. Some of the measures that were already enacted, including the authorization for the building of a museum, the so-called House of Faiths, under the guidance of a controversial founder and director of the House of Terror, the establishment of the Veritas Historical Research Institute, which, under the leadership of another controversial so-called patriotic historian, is envisioned to strengthen national awareness. And finally, but not the least, the planned erection of a statue commemorating the German occupation have aroused the ire not only of Jews, but also of many people of goodwill in Hungary and many other parts of the world. These measures by the government are almost universally considered as attempts to falsify the history of the Horthy era in general and of the Holocaust in particular. The dangers inherent in these measures were eloquently summarized late last January by Ilan Mor, Israel's ambassador to Budapest, and I quote, "The 6 million victims of the Shoah were murdered twice. The first time when they were physically exterminated 70 years ago, and they are now murdered once more when the memory of their plight is distorted and erased. Holocaust denial in its various forms is an expression of anti-Semitism. Any attempt to deny the genocide of the Jews is an effort to exonerate the Nazi ideology and anti-Semitism from guilt or responsibility in the genocide of the Jewish people. Any attempts to rewrite or to reinterpret the history of the Shoah in this country, that is Hungary, or elsewhere for any reason, politically and or ideologically, are part of the deplorable attempt to deny the Holocaust, the Shoah. The assault on the historical memory of the Holocaust is wrought with danger. Without memory, there is no history. And without history, there is no national ethnic continuity. In following the policies of the current Hungarian government, one is reminded of the party slogan in George Orwell's 1984, quote, "Who controls the past, controls the future. Who controls the present, controls the past." Patriotic historians, and there are many of them in Hungary, and their political supporters in power today are desperately trying to control the past in order to build their kind of future, a future that uses the Horthy model of the past. History is a formidable weapon. It is particularly corruptive and dangerous in the hands of chauvinistic nationalists bent on shaping history. Unless the so-called historical revisionists and the history cleansers are unmasked and counteracted, the record of the Holocaust inevitably will be tarnished and obliterated. I want to congratulate once again the organizers of this conference all the panelists and the members in the audience, all of you, for carrying the torch of historical truth. By doing this, I'm convinced you will not only protect the integrity of the historical record of the Holocaust, but also teach its lessons to the current and future generations. By doing this, you will also advance the cause of democracy in Hungary, a democracy that will be guided by the universal principles of tolerance and pluralism, and a Hungary that would assure prosperity and advance the cause of freedom for all its citizens. I wish all of you all the best and a fruitful and successful conference.